Good evening, everyone. We're just going to give folks another minute here to pop into the Zoom meeting. Be right back with you. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Keybridge Rebuild Virtual Community Update. My name is Cheryl Sparks, and I serve as the Chief Strategy Officer here at the Maryland Transportation Authority. Thank you for joining us this evening for the Community Update. We had more than 350 people register for tonight's event, including local residents, businesses, and property owners, and commuters and industry professionals, all valued stakeholders who have been affected by the tragic loss of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Tonight's update is an opportunity to share progress, answer questions, and keep the community informed. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping issues. Today's community update is being live streamed on keybridgerebuild.com, and a recording of the presentation will be available on the website following the meeting. There's a Q&A button in the bottom of your screen on the Zoom toolbar where you can submit questions at any time during the presentation. We did receive many questions in advance of today's update. When you registered for the Zoom call tonight, there was an opportunity to ask a question there, and we did receive a number of questions that we hope to get to tonight, and then also we will get to as many as we can through the chat feature in the Q&A portion at the end of the presentations. Please continue to check for project updates on Key Bridge Rebuild for all of the latest project updates and information. If you haven't followed us on Facebook yet, Key Bridge Rebuild is the handle, and it is the place to find all things Key Bridge. I'd like now to turn it over to Bruce Gardner, our Executive Director of the Maryland Transportation Authority. Bruce?
Thank you, Cheryl. First, on behalf of the Moore Miller Administration and Acting Transportation Secretary and MDTA Chair Samantha Biddle, as well as the MDTA Board, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We know everyone gets their news differently, so tonight's update is just another way of us keeping communities informed on the latest Key Bridge construction progress. Some of you are here because you may be affected by increased traffic, or you may be curious about the project. Perhaps you grew up and lived near the Key Bridge your whole life and are eager to see what the new bridge will look like. While we recognize the Key Bridge is a gateway to the Baltimore port and the harbor, it is also a local bridge that the community really depended on. We know commuters used it every day to get to and from work, or neighbors saw it in the distance from their backyards. When it comes to traffic, we at the MDTA do understand the challenges with the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, the Fort McHenry Tunnel, and the MDTA headquarters facilities in Dundalk. All of the MDTA employees sit in the same traffic that you all do. Tonight, we're going to do a few things. We're going to hear from some guest presenters. We're going to cover the cost and schedule of the project. We'll also touch on traffic impacts and actions taken since March 2024. We're going to hear about commuter options from our colleagues at MDOT, and we're going to share details on the rebuild progress to date. Finally, we're going to summarize some of our community engagement updates. But before we do that and get into project details, I want to welcome some special guests first. We invited the county executives from Anne Arundel and Baltimore County to say a few words. And for ease of production, County Executive Klausmeier and County Executive Pittman have provided short videos to share with you tonight. So let's go ahead and share those now.
Good evening. I'm Baltimore County Executive Kathy Klausmeier. Thank you to all of our partners at the Maryland Transportation Authority for keeping us up to date on new information about the Key Bridge. For decades, this iconic landmark has been an economic driver for our region. In the wake of its tragic collapse, we're deeply grateful to all our federal, state, and local partners for helping our region recover. I know that our residents and businesses appreciate your efforts as well. Now, as we prepare to take the next steps to replace the Key Bridge, we need to continue working together in partnership. We've all been disappointed to learn that the replacement bridge has been delayed by 2 years, with increased cost as well. Given these setbacks, it's more important than ever for us to share information and work together. While the new bridge may be delayed, it's critical that we built it to be stronger and safer for our residents. Millions of drivers relied on the Key Bridge, and even more people may depend on the new one. Together, we have to make sure that the replacement bridge will stand tall and proud for decades to come. These efforts require continued teamwork, and we're grateful again to all our partners for your commitment to this vital project. Thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to strengthening our partnerships and learning more about our next steps so we can make sure that our region fully recovers from this tragic event and thrives for many, many years. And I just would like to wish everyone a happy holiday.
Hello, I'm Stuart Pittman, Anne Arundel County Executive. We are abutting the bridge and have 600,000 people who use that bridge. Not all of us every day, but have a lot at stake with the rebuild. So I want to just say that thank you, MDTA, for giving this update, for keeping us all informed. I think the process for the last 15 months has been incredibly transparent. I've been out there a number of times, most recently watching them start to work on these test piles that they're doing. And the fact that construction is already moving forward to the extent that it can, and that there's so many pieces to the funding of this, to the financing, the lawsuits going on. I'm just really gratified that there are really experienced people that are working on this project. And while we're all disappointed that it's going to take longer than we had thought and hoped at first, and it's going to cost more, it's also not the same bridge that was originally proposed. The federal regulations for safety, they're important, but it's a bigger project. So I just hope that all of Maryland sticks together on this one. We get it done as quickly as we can. We bring it in under this budget, and really looking forward to what looks like a beautiful design. And it'll be the entrance to Baltimore City. It'll be what connects Anne Arundel and Baltimore. And thank you all for your work.
All right, so as the county executives have touched on cost and schedule, I'm going to address that first tonight. Last month, after advancing design to 70%, the MDTA updated the estimated cost range to between $4.3 and $5.2 billion, with the anticipated open to traffic date of late 2030. I really want to emphasize that the initial cost estimate for the rebuild was made less than 2 weeks after the collapse. In order to obtain federal funding, we needed to provide the best estimate we could, given the information we had at that time. Since the design was at 0%, no engineering studies had been done yet, and we did not have clarity as to what kind of bridge it would be. Since September of 24, in just 14 months, our dedicated Key Bridge rebuild team has achieved progress that typically takes 7 years for projects of this scale. Pre-construction activities, updated data points, and advanced design have given us information needed to provide updated cost range and schedules. The updated range of costs for the new bridge is driven by pier protection, a higher and longer main span, and the continued volatile market conditions for construction. The MDTA refined the estimate to reflect modern design standards, federal requirements, national best practices, including enhanced pier protection, updated engineering and architectural standards, and the federal navigation clearance requirements, including a 230-foot main span height. Specifically, the enhanced pier protection system is over $1 billion to meet federal guidelines, with protective fenders designed larger than a football field. The increased length of the main span, now 1,660 feet, accommodates marine traffic and is needed to comply with those current federal guidelines for new bridges. The updated cost reflects modern standards and the complexity of this bridge. With this slide, we just want to take a moment to look at bridges from around the country and projects of this size and magnitude. For those types of projects, the cost of the Key Bridge rebuild is on par with other projects. However, the project is moving at a much more compressed schedule. And we've also come out with a much more recent design estimate than some of the other bridges that will be doing that in the near future. While I realize that 2030 is a long way from now, please be assured that the MDTA is moving quickly to begin construction next year while looking for new solutions to traffic in the Baltimore region. The MDTA is working day and night to deliver a new bridge that the community members can be proud of and drive across once again. Since the beginning of the project, Maryland has been and will continue working in lockstep with the Federal Highway Administration on all aspects of the project, including permitting, design specifications, cost, and schedule. To minimize burden on taxpayers and consistent with the American Relief Act passed last year by Congress, the state of Maryland continues to pursue the Dolly's owner and manager for all damages that it caused the collapse, including the cost to reconstruct the bridge. Together, we'll continue working closely with our federal partners and design partner Kiewit to deliver a safe, modern bridge as quickly and cost-effectively as possible. When complete, Baltimore will be home to Maryland's first cable stay bridge, which will have the longest main span entirely in the United States. Shortly, MDTA's Chief Engineer, Jim Harkness, will provide updates on all the great work the project has gone through thus far and what work lies ahead. So the original Key Bridge was a vital connection for many Baltimore drivers, and we really do thank you for your patience as you adjust your alternate routes and your carpooling and transit options. We know traffic has been challenging, and we wanted to provide a brief overview of the steps we have taken to help manage congestion during the rebuild. The traffic is being monitored across I-95, 895, and the tunnel corridors. Coordination with traffic agencies is ongoing, along with temporary measures to ease congestion. One of those measures was to suspend tolls at the I-695 Broning Highway exit to support the port and access during the rebuild process, and that will continue throughout the rebuild process. Northbound on I-895, the toll plaza was adjusted to improve merging and traffic flow. On 895, we converted to all electronic tolling with the toll booth removal planned for after the rebuild, and we'll talk more about that later. But most recently, just south of the I-95 Fort McHenry Tunnel, we have included new pavement markings that were added to improve traffic flow. To share more about current traffic conditions and some commuter options, I'd like to introduce Joe McAndrew, Assistant Secretary for Project Development and Delivery at the Maryland Department of Transportation. We truly do appreciate all the assistance from our colleagues throughout MDOT during this difficult time. Joe, turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Director, and thank you all. The theme tonight is that we can't do it alone. We got to do it together, and MDOT and the team from Governor Moore's leadership on down are committed to doing our part to try to mitigate the impacts of the loss of the bridge and work tirelessly to get the bridge reopened. But until that happens, we have immediate disruption to traffic and commuting patterns for Maryland residents, employees, and employers throughout the greater Baltimore region. This will continue throughout the rebuild of the Key Bridge, with drivers anticipated to see a new normal of anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes on average of added time to commute each way. When aggregated across the year, that comes out to roughly 200 extra hours sitting in traffic per year if we don't think and act together to try to reduce the impacts from our transportation decisions. So what we have been doing is implementing mitigation measures for some time since the bridge's collapse across a number of areas, offering commuter benefits, providing more mobility information than ever, making enhancements to physical infrastructure and signals to relieve pain for our commuters. While we work night and day to rebuild the bridge, the state remains committed to continue to work to improve your options to get around and provide you with the best information possible so you can make the best decisions for your needs and demands on a given day. What's that look like? We had a program and we're dialing it and enhancing its options as we speak. We can all help reduce traffic congestion in our individual capacity by reducing the number of vehicle trips we take when and where possible, picking up your friends, your neighbors, and making sure that we can maximize the number of people in the seats that are moving, and thinking about alternative transportation options if employers have the ability to support their employees and or supporting slightly shifted work schedules so that folks can go ahead and travel outside of those peak hours is really important. There are other options as well. We've got our transit and ride sharing like carpools and van pools. And in MDOT, we've got our Commuter Choice Maryland program, a free program where we offer assistance with transportation commuting alternatives and resources and incentives. Here, the goal is to help Marylanders and residents relieve some of your daily commute time and stress, not to mention commuting costs, by trying alternative transportation options. With Commuter Choice Maryland's free programs and tools, we've got the tools necessary for you to be able to make the right decision for what you're looking to do. More recently, we've launched a transit incentive program with new transit riders, which provide passes to those over a 90-day period, which can be utilized in the Charm Pass app that MTA offers. That's new individuals that download the app during select windows receive funds directly onto their card that they then can use to pay for their trips. We've also gone ahead and introduced a Commuter Choice Maryland incentives for folks that vanpool or carpool, offering up to $500 a month towards those that start or join a vanpool, and up to $5 per day for carpoolers for up to 3 months. Again, trying to encourage and incent more butts in the seats so we can move the most people possible through our scarce resource, and that is our limited roadway facilities. We're also working as a department across all of our departments, MDTA, or agencies, MDTA, SHA, the State Highway Administration, MTA, the Maryland Transit Administration, our local partners, and others to try to go ahead and explore new opportunities because we're going to be with this for a couple of years, and we are not going to rest until we can continue to improve on the solutions and the options provided. What that entails is a regular working group across the department, ideating, testing, piloting, and ultimately bringing new options and new information to you and to your fingertips. We're looking at new transit incentive programs, physical infrastructure enhancements, targeted corridor benefits, really trying to encourage employers to lean in and support, and also increased engagement with the employers when and where possible. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it up and just say, we can't do this alone. We will do our best. We are committed to doing our best up and until and beyond when the bridge reopens. But ultimately, I'd ask for folks to lean in with us, test, try, encourage your employers if able to engage. We're here to help and support you in your travel demand needs, and ultimately we're going to keep on trying our best to make sure that we're mitigating the negative impacts on the transportation roadway system as much as possible. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it back to Director Gartner. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So now I'd like to turn it over to Chief Engineer Jim Harkness, who will provide an update on the progress of the Key Bridge rebuild and what's coming next. Jim?
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I'm Jim Harkness, Chief Engineer for MDTA. I'm proud to be presenting tonight on behalf of the dedicated Key Bridge rebuild project team. I'm going to present a lot of the technical numbers behind the rebuild. I'll cover some impressive figures that will give a sense of the scale of this project. The image on the screen highlights several of the biggest features of the new bridge, such as the cables, the main span, our H-shaped pylons, and the pier protection. But before I get into the numbers, I'm going to walk through the project timeline. Starting on the left side, we have our progressive design build phase 1, which is essentially the contract with Kiewit, our design builder, which enables us to perform the design. So we entered into this contract with Kiewit in summer of 24. And just as a reminder to the folks, this is our progressive design build model. So it's a little bit different in terms of how we deliver this project. The current contract with the contractor is for what we call phase 1, which entails all of the design efforts on the bridge, as well as some limited pre-construction activities that help with the design efforts. And speaking of the design effort, we began that back in fall of last year. And so that design effort kicked off in earnest in September and will continue through spring of next year. But most recently, we've reached an important milestone of 70% design completion on that project. Following the start of the design effort, we then commenced what we call pre-construction activities last winter. Pre-construction activities were things that we were able to do as part of the design effort or to inform the design effort. Following the start of pre-construction activities, we were able to have an early work package on the project that allowed us to perform demolition of the existing land structures. That work began this summer in July and will continue until early next year. After starting demo, the contractor then began a test pile program. That test pile program began in October, and it will also continue into early next year. Now, sort of looking ahead on the project, we have trestle construction, which we look to start this winter over the next couple of weeks. We also look to start our pylon foundation construction. Following up on this, we anticipate taking our progressive design build contract and moving into phase 2. Phase 2 is also known as the construction phase. So if we are able to enter into a contract with our current design builder on phase 2, that will allow us to begin and approach span construction, as well as continue the pylon construction, and eventually lead us into the cable-stayed span construction. And now we can get into the project numbers. Shown here is a typical section for the new bridge. This is a standard interstate cross-section for a large bridge. As you can see, we will have 4 lanes on this bridge, similar to the former bridge. But in addition to the 4 lanes, we will now have shoulders on the outside, 10-foot shoulders on the outside, 4-foot shoulders on the inside. As you can see from this image, this is a no-frills bridge, with the only thing added are safety upgrades when you're comparing it to the former bridge. On this slide, we are highlighting the shape of the cable-stayed bridge and some of its critical dimensions. We're also showing the 6 piers that support the cable-stayed span, including the 2 main piers, which we refer to as pylons. The main span length of the new bridge is 1,665 feet, and that dimension was driven by the AASHTO specification for new bridges. That distance enhances the safety of the new bridge by increasing that spacing between the 2 pylons. Another dimension shown here is the minimum clearance over the federal channel. That distance is 230 feet, as required by the U.S. Coast Guard. The main span length and the minimum clearance help to determine the height of the pylons, which top out at more than 600 feet above the water. For these pylons, due to the massive amount of concrete needed to construct the towers, we will be constructing the pylons in multiple lifts, each tower requiring more than 30 lifts, which will be approximately 20 feet high. Now we can move on to the pylon foundations. Each pylon will rest on 45 steel piles. Each of those steel piles is over 200 feet long, and they are 8 feet in diameter. The pylon foundation is a concrete cap that ties the piles together. The pylon foundation is over 20 feet thick, made of reinforced concrete, and it is roughly the size of 2 basketball courts. In addition to the pile foundations, we have additional cable-stayed bridge foundations. We have significant foundations for the tie-down pier and the transition pier, which are located on each side of the main span. The foundations for these smaller piers will have 10 piles each, using the same 200-foot long by 8-foot diameter pile for those footings. In total, there will be 6 cable-stayed bridge piers using 130 8-foot diameter steel piles. Now we'll move on and talk a little bit about the pier protection for those 6 cable-stayed bridge foundations. We refer to these bridge protection systems as a fender. Each of the 6 piers will have a reinforced concrete fender. Each fender will make use of the same 8-foot steel pile as was used in the foundations. The pylon's pier protection system uses 78 steel piles, and that's for each of the 2 pylons. In total, the 6 fenders will use 276 concrete-filled steel piles, each of which are 8 feet in diameter. Now that we've covered a lot of the details that emerged from the intense design effort, which started last year, we'll talk a little bit about pre-construction activities, which we were able to start earlier this year. The first of which is the geotechnical borings. The geotechnical borings are used to sample the soil at the project site, both on land and in the water. The data acquired from the geotechnical borings is used to inform our design and help us with the foundation design, which led to the piles which were mentioned earlier. Another pre-construction activity was the wind tunnel testing. The bridge design underwent a multitude of various wind testing scenarios, each of which was necessary to confirm how the bridge would respond in a variety of extreme weather and powerful wind events. A third example of some of our pre-construction activities was scour testing. In partnership with Federal Highway Administration's Turner Fairbanks Research Facility, our design underwent testing by running through their plume model. They simulated the actual conditions that our foundations would experience in the river to determine how our bridge foundation would respond to impacts from various scour analyses. As I mentioned earlier, we have mechanical demolition of the existing bridge structure. So in July, we started this effort with the contractor to remove the existing structure over land. That contractor removed the concrete deck, has removed the steel girders, and has begun working on removing the reinforced concrete bridge piers. That work is expected, as I said, to continue until early next year. Additionally, we have the test pile program. So the contractor has installed 12 test piles out in the river. These test piles will be used to confirm our design assumptions. The contractor will be working on carrying out those tests over the next couple of weeks. The testing has begun and will continue until February. That information from the test pile program, again, it just confirms the design assumptions that we have been built into the project. And now we'll talk a little bit about the trestle construction that's upcoming. So expecting to start this work this month. We are currently preparing the Hawkins Point side for this platform work. So a trestle is a temporary platform that's constructed to enable the contractor to get supplies and equipment and manpower out to the locations to be able to work on construction activities out on the water more easily. In December, the crews will start driving piles to extend the trestle on the south side, the Hawkins Point side. And then in early 2026, crews will start building a second trestle on the north side from Salters Point. In total, the two trestles will cover about 3.4 acres of area in order to support the construction on the water. Now that we've talked about a lot of the activities that's going to be happening out at the project site, we just want to kind of go over some of the safety measures that we have in place. We have installed and implemented a safety zone in coordination with the U.S. Coast Guard. So it's a no entry area that's 500 feet in each direction from the existing bridge. We also have a 6-knot no wake zone established earlier this year, which is to protect both boaters as well as construction crews. I will call out that the federal channel remains open with no speed restrictions. And now I'd like to turn things back over to Bruce.
Thanks, Jim. As we continue moving forward with the rebuild, community engagement does remain a critical part of this effort. I'd like to take a moment to highlight how we've been staying connected with stakeholders throughout the process. Engagement just isn't about communication, it's also about opportunity. We know we have a number of industry professionals registered for tonight's update, so we wanted to include opportunities with our design builder here. As phase 1 approaches completion, Kiewit will begin soliciting subcontractor pricing later this year for inclusion in the phase 2 cost estimate. Kiewit is actively seeking to engage in local and small businesses interested in subcontracting opportunities on the project. Contractors and suppliers can express interest by completing the bidder interest forms or scanning the QR code that is shown here. As new scope packages are released, firms are encouraged to check back and resubmit their bidder interest form to stay informed of the opportunities to come. Now on to engagement. Since the beginning of the project, we've connected with thousands of people through in-person outreach and digital platforms. That includes more than 100 pop-up events, 50 speaking engagements, and a growing audience through email and social media. We also share regular updates through the weekly KeyBridge Brief, our Bridging the Facts Facebook series, and the Connected Project newsletter. These tools help break down complex topics and keep the community informed between meetings like this one. We encourage you to stay connected by signing up for project alerts, following us on Facebook, and sharing feedback through our hotline or email. Once again, I want to thank County Executive Klausmeier and County Executive Pittman for joining us today. Their support for this project is always appreciated. And we want to do a special thank you for everyone attending the virtual meeting tonight. We hope that you've learned a lot about the rebuild projects and continue to follow us for updates. With that, we're going to move on to our question and answer portion of tonight's update and address as many of your questions as time allows, and with more follow-up to come after this meeting.
Thank you, Bruce. And timely, we do have a question in the chat. Somebody says, I'm not on Facebook and don't want to be. Where else can I get updates? So this is the perfect slide for that person viewing tonight. There's lots of opportunities to stay up to date about the project. If you can get to the keybridgerebuild.com website, you can sign up for those newsletters and those news alerts that will have a nice compilation on a monthly basis of the Key Bridge project updates, and then there will be, the website will be updated as we go along as well. So another question I have here is for Jim Harkness, our chief engineer. Why not just fix the parts of the bridge that were damaged? And why can't you use the existing or the standing piers that you've started to demolish?
Okay, thanks. There's a number of reasons. Of course, we initially looked at, the possibility of retaining portions of the bridge, but, we just don't know the condition of the footings of the original bridge. There were a lot of unknowns. Additionally, we quickly understood that with this bridge, the new bridge was not going to be an exact carbon copy of the former bridge. And so because of those, differences in height, differences in width, we just weren't going to be able to utilize any of the existing pieces of the former bridge.
Okay, thanks, Jim. This is a two-part question. Has a tunnel been considered? And then the other part of the question is, did the state consider a ferry system to operate during the rebuild process?
Thanks, Cheryl. I could take that one. So immediately following the collapse of the Key Bridge, we did make the decision to seek emergency relief funds and to do the environmental permitting that would be the most expeditious to get the bridge rebuilt. Doing a tunnel in that situation was just not something that was possible to do under that program or with the resources available. As far as the ferry system goes, that wasn't really an option for the long term, but in terms of doing something during the replacement, got to realize some of the limitations with the ferry system. We've looked at this at the Bay Bridge and other places, and while there are ferries that are being worked on to supplement our transportation system, doing the project in even that amount of time, finding the available land, and also knowing that the transfer times to have commuters actually benefit from speedy access across the Patapsco River, it just wasn't feasible. So did think about that in the early days, but that's not something that would have really addressed our traffic situation in the Baltimore region here during the rebuild process.
Okay, thank you. And we have a couple of questions about this one. This is for you, Jim. The one question is what will the weight limit for the new bridge be? And will the new bridge be able to support weight of cargo coming from the port of Baltimore?
Okay, yeah. Of course, we have looked at what the future needs are in terms of traffic capacity to support the type of vehicle fleet we're going to see here. And this bridge is being designed, as I said before, to interstate standards. So we're going to have the ability to meet the standard legal load for all of the vehicles over the bridge. But like our other interstate bridges, we're going to have a case-by-case review for oversized, overweight permitted combination vehicles, anything exceeding, the standard legal load and dimension. We anticipate the vast majority of commercial vehicle traffic is going to be able to cross the bridge with very few exceptions.
Thanks, Jim. Next question is, was there a bike ped lane considered for the new bridge? Who would like to take that?
Yeah, I think similar to Bruce's response on the tunnel or the ferry, we were again entering the project through the emergency relief program by Federal Highway that limited what we were able to do in terms of enhancements, adding things to the bridge that weren't on the former bridge. And so because of that, there will not be a bike and pedestrian facility on the new bridge. However, Maryland Department of Transportation remains committed to advancing a strategic planning framework for advancing opportunities across the Patapsco River, as well as addressing east-west mobility needs in the region.
Okay,
Jim,
thanks.
Oh,
Oops, go
Cheryl.
ahead.
Sorry, Cheryl, I just wanted to add, since Jim beat me to my unmute button there, that we also are take those connections seriously. And if you look at the recent announcements we've had about the Bay Bridge, that is something that's being pursued at the Bay Bridge with the the options, the networks on either side of the Bay Bridge that would connect a shared use path, being very different from the situation in the infrastructure there in the Dundalk and the Baltimore City south side of the bridge. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. We do have a question in the chat of, will tonight's presentation be available for review? Absolutely. All of the tonight's presentation will be posted to keybridgerebuild.com following the meeting. So yes, all of the slides and the information that will be available. Okay, this is a funding question. So Bruce, probably more appropriate for you. Who is paying for the new bridge and who will finance any costs that Congress doesn't pay for?
Thanks, Cheryl. So yes, as you mentioned, I mentioned previously, the cost of the Key Bridge was included in a bill last year passed by Congress to fund the Key Bridge. That said, the MDTA does have a lot of resources that we're putting into the project. There's over $350 million in our insurance proceeds, and we are, of course, working closely with Attorney General Brown's office on the litigation to make the parties responsible, the owners and operators of the Dolly responsible for this collapse, reimburse the federal taxpayers for that portion of the bridge cost. So the other thing to mention is MDTA does do financing for our facilities, and we envision, that we will be floating bonds to fund the bridge over the course of the 5-year period, and reimbursements to follow from the federal government, since we can't count on those coming in the day that the funding is needed. So we have some borrowing costs associated with the rebuild.
Okay, thank you. Back to a construction question. When will construction start and what happens with the test piles when you're done with those?
Okay.
Jim?
That's a little bit of a difficult question. So I'll try to explain it as best I can, but I mentioned earlier that the Key Bridge rebuild is currently progressing in design. We've reached the 70% milestone. However, because of the way that we're able to do the progressive design build, we're able to have some early work packages like I talked about with demo being one of those, some of the pile being another, and a trestle being another example of early work packages. We've also had those pre-construction activities already underway this year. So we're making progress every day, and construction is, production pile is starting to arrive on site. We're getting ready to be able to drive that based on the results of the test pile program. So really, construction is sort of already underway, with the real start of construction sort of being that point where we reach the agreement on phase 2 with our design build contractor, which we expect to happen in spring of next year. In terms of what will happen with the test pile, we have driven 12 test pile, 6 piles at each of the 2 pylon locations. 2 of those 6 piles that we drove are the ones that we perform the tests on. So we test them in the horizontal and vertical direction. Those pile we will be removing. So we'll cut those off and remove them from the river at the end of testing. As assuming everything checks out with the tests, the other 4 pile at each location would remain in place and be incorporated into the foundations for the new bridge.
Production piles and part of the permanent bridge. Excellent. Back to a traffic question. Why is the 895 toll booth removal tied to the completion of the Key Bridge rebuild? And there is a follow-up. I'm going to ask it right now too. Is there a better plan to better handle the merge on the 895 Shell Road until the new bridge is completed? So questions about the 895 entrance there.
Okay, I'll start out and let Jim fill in, particularly with that follow-up. But it's important. We do get this question a lot, so thank you for asking that to the audience tonight. But the real constraint on 895, and that's coming northbound. I do it every day myself, but the constraint there is the tunnel entrance. So even though configurations of the toll plaza, removing that, we do have a project to remove those toll booths, but it's part of a much larger project. So In 3 phases, we're eliminating the toll collection at the toll booths. That's done. The gantries are now north of the tunnel. The off-site work outside of 895 on Frank First Avenue will be phase 2. That can take place during the reconstruction of the Key Bridge, but the actual realignment of the toll booths and the ramps and everything needs to take place afterwards, because it would have incredible impact on the traffic flowing through that area. So we do need to wait, and even though there is delay, we need people to slow down for safety in that area, coming especially northbound through the Harbor Tunnel. So helping each other merge in advance is really important, as much as we can do with the infrastructure things. So Jim, I'll let you specifically talk about the Shell Road merges.
Yeah, I think early on, we were able to make some modifications in the northbound direction to the toll plaza. We delineated some of the traffic. We separated the through movements from the merge and diverge movements from the ramps. So we were able to kind of install some channelization devices out there, close the lanes in the middle of the toll plaza. Based on the geometry that we have and the available spaces and the number of lanes heading into the tunnel, we're limited in really what we can do there. But we do remain committed to looking at options, and so we will keep an eye on how things are going there, with the eye at improving in ways that we can.
Okay. Thank you. Here is a question about employment. Will we be posting, or will there be opportunities for community members to apply for jobs on the Key Bridge project? How can they get information about jobs on the rebuild? Yeah, there's a few questions that have come in about that.
Yeah, I think generally, as you can see from our presentation tonight, it's a very large project. It's going to take a lot of manpower to construct this project. There will be a large need for a lot of different varieties of skills and capabilities. So our contractor, in this early phase, while we're still in this design phase and sort of those pre-construction activities, there may be limited opportunities. But as we move into next year and we get into the full construction, they certainly will be looking for every opportunity to be able to bring people onto this project. We have apprenticeship and workforce development opportunities. We have a portion of our project webpage, the keybridgerebuild.com, where you can find information about the opportunities with our contractor. And so you can navigate to that at our project webpage and find out the latest opportunities from our contractor, and that includes some of their community engagement and outreach opportunities as well.
So common theme tonight, keybridgerebuild.com for all things Key Bridge. In case
Cheryl? Sorry,
yes, go ahead.
just to
go
add
ahead.
one more
Sure.
thing. I mean, we, as you know, but our audience doesn't, we meet regularly with our local governments that are helping us in this project, and there are a lot of workforce development agencies. So I encourage everybody to research the workforce development agencies in Anne Arundel County, the city, and Baltimore County, because they're really trying to provide those training opportunities through different grant programs and other resources that they have. And MDOT has also worked on some of that workforce development as well. And thank you to Joe McAndrew for those efforts.
Great, thank you. Bruce, I'm going to throw this one back at you. You've already answered it, but we're getting it again. So I'm wondering if there's some people who might have joined late. We know that the bridge that's being built is a different bridge than we, initially anticipated when those early numbers came out. Can you address the cost drivers of the new cost range that we publicly have out there now?
Sure. Since I said that in the beginning, I'll do the first cut at that. So very simply, there were three things that I mentioned before. So the pier protection was one. When we first, in those early days, we didn't have the analysis of all the vessel fleet and the predictions and what the engineers need to do the physics on what the size of the bridge to get it outside of that channel. That we didn't know what that was going to be, but we really didn't know what kind of pier protection was needed there. So a more simplified system of potentially a rock island would not have worked because the environment of that soft river bottom, and it would have restricted the channel. So Jim and his team went to onto that designing of those pier protection. I mentioned the wider main span. It's part of those factors. The taller for the Coast Guard guidelines, that's the second major cost driver of the bridge. So that's a huge part of that. Just a wider bridge across the river. And then finally, just inflation. We factored in some inflation to the project, but in the dynamic market that we're in today, that continues to be a cost driver for our project. And also, as we talk to our peers around the country, they're experiencing the same thing. So that is the third major element of the costs associated with the bridge.
Great. Thank you, Bruce, for covering that again. There's a question here that I can actually answer. Where do I get the Transit Royal app? If you can go to the App Store, both Apple and Android, and it is called, I had that. I have it. It is called Transit app, accessible on Apple and Android. So there you have it. On that one, let's see. Quick question about lighting. Will the bridge be lit? Will it have lighting on it?
Yes, the cables and the piers will have lighting on it. We haven't made those final determinations yet, and we do hope to engage with the public next year on just looking through some of those non-structural elements and options for the bridge.
Okay, thank you. And a question about a memorial. Will there be a memorial?
Again, something that we're planning to do. The more details will be next year. This year has been really focused on getting the main bridge project to that point. But there's a time to work on that, and we will do that.
We have a question, and well, it's a comment more about if we have looked at speeds through the tunnels and have considered placing any kind of additional speed limit signs for people driving through the tunnel, just so people are more aware of their speeds and creating a safer environment.
Jim, I'll let you take that one.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we have looked at the causes for the congestion, and there's a lot of factors that go into why a confined roadway like a tunnel system has a lower capacity than the highway, standard highway system. So there are a lot of factors that at play in terms of grades and driver behaviors that factor into reduced speeds through tunnels. So we are looking at ways to kind of message that, but really it's a humans factors issue.
Okay, thank you. And Bruce, I like to fend off rumors and address things head on. Is it true MDTA has asked Kent Island Express to set up shop here and shuttle drivers across the new bridge?
That certainly hasn't come from me. So we will have to look into figuring out where that information came from, but we can add that to our information later.
Yep, I don't have any intel on that as well. Let's see. Looking to see if there's anything else. We're getting close to the end of our time here. I think one last question. Where can people continue to see the latest images and progress photos of the Key Bridge construction progress?
Our engagement team on the project has done great work to create content. And so there's a variety of locations where you can stay up to date. KeyBridgeRebuild.com. If you're on social, we have our Facebook page. We also have updates via text and email. But the KeyBridgeRebuild.com has all the project content, a large gallery of images, and a lot of other related information for the project.
I'm going to throw one last, I'm going to throw one last question in. I thought my mic was muted. Bruce, I know you covered this, but I think a late person coming in wanting to know if the federal government, if there's still plans for them to pay for the rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, I'll back up a little bit there, Cheryl. If someone's asking that question, I think they might have also heard or might have missed the fact that the Federal Highway Administration has been part of this process. The Emergency Relief Program comes with a lot of different requirements associated with that. Jim mentioned that we worked with them in one of their labs to do some of the testing on that. So the federal government is still a strong partner in that. You know, we know there's been talk about that meeting between the Secretary of USDOT and the governor. We hope that that can be accomplished, you know, if not before the holidays, right after the holidays this year. We do really want to continue to part with them. It is in, federal law about the funding for the Key Bridge. So we will continue to meet with the federal government to keep the dialogue open and have them understand the costs associated with this rebuild.
Thank you, Bruce. And we have come very, very close to 7:30, and I want to be respectful of our participants' time tonight. So as a reminder, all of the slides from tonight's presentations will be posted at keybridgerebuild.com. And as said several times tonight, latest information on the Key Bridge project can be found on that website. That website will allow you to register for text messages and our newsletter and other news alerts. And you can also follow us on Facebook at Key Bridge Rebuild. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Maryland Transportation Authority wishes you all a very, very happy holiday season and hope that it is a happy, healthy, and safe holiday. Have a good night.